Yo guys, what's going on? It's your boy Blank Online. Today, we're going to be talking about some Call of Duty Modern Warfare and the microtransactions that we could be seeing post launch. Now, before I get any further in this video, if you guys do go on to enjoy it, please leave a like. And if you are new around here, click that subscribe button down below. Click in that bell button as well, because you do not want to miss out on any of my upcoming Call of Duty Modern Warfare content. But without further ado, let's get into it. We have a quote here from the Infinity Ward dev team regarding microtransactions. Essentially, they're just addressing the community and saying we're listening to you guys in regards to microtransactions, and then that they were going to reveal more about microtransactions closer to launch. Now, even though this tweet is short, and even though it may seem that there's not too much to pick out about this, there's quite a bit that we can pick out about this and speculate further in regards to microtransactions in Modern Warfare. If we look at the previous track record of Call of Duty's, in particular Black Ops 4, there were the ability to buy COD points at launch, but there was no way to use them at launch as well. Later on down the track, as soon as the initial sales went up, as soon as all the positive reviews came out for Black Ops 4, Activision and Treyarch then implemented microtransactions being cosmetic only, and they also introduced the contraband streamed as well, which was a free battle pass essentially for everyone who played the multiplayer, Blackout and Zombies. So in that sense, as soon as all that sort of stuff came out, again, even more positive feedback, and as soon as all that positive feedback kind of died out, that's when they started to implement the weapons and all the other crap. So we see that sort of track record here in Black Ops 4. We saw that track record as well in a game in I think it was World War II. World War II? No, World War II was purely cosmetic at the start, and then eventually Sledgehammer Games implemented weapon DLC as well. So we can see from the previous two games that we're going to have one thing at the start, and it's going to evolve into another thing by the end, by let's say this time next year as well. I think that with this game here in Modern Warfare, the fact that, I guess you guys all know this already, the fact that we're not going to be having any paid for DLC post launch really opens up the doors to some pretty scary stuff regarding microtransactions. And I think that this year, at least in my opinion, will be the worst year for microtransactions we've seen yet. I think that with the positive feedback that Activision and Infinity Ward are gaining, because they're not charging us for post-launch DLC, so that's like map packs and stuff like that, I think that the positive feedback from that is gonna really be music to at least Activision's ears, because they're gonna be like, oh wow, look at all these people that are praising us and praising our game. Let's, I guess, take advantage of that praise and do something that will make them even more money, because more people are gonna buy this game because there's free DLC, right? And with that, I guess they have a bigger market to kind of poke at and take money from, because when they eventually, and I'm going to say eventually because I do believe it's eventually, when they eventually produce supply drops and weapon DLC and all this stuff, at that point in time, everyone's going to have bought the game already. They're gonna get their positive reviews. They're gonna get all this positive spotlight and all that sort of stuff. And as soon as that happens, and as soon as that dies off a little bit, bang, that's where we're gonna get all the crap. So, in my opinion, I don't see anything different happening this year in terms of what we're gonna see and what we're gonna hear about and what we're gonna have at launch. I think at launch, what we're gonna have is a system where it's gonna be purely cosmetic, so stuff for your operators, or different operator skins and stuff like that. So let's say, I don't know, at launch there is a shop, and in that shop you can get two of a weekly skin and a daily skin for a specific operator pack, and then within that you have your daily items. Those daily items can include, I don't know, weapon camos and stuff like that, reticles or whatever you want to put in there, emblems, calling cards, all that sort of stuff. So essentially we're going to get what we had in Black Ops 4 just earlier. So I'm going to predict that at the start of Modern Warfare we will have a microtransaction system, some sort of shop that players can pump money into to buy cosmetic items, and it's going to be purely cosmetic from the start. Now, Even though it is purely cosmetic from the start, again, as we've seen with Black Ops 4, that doesn't stop Activision from making it not purely cosmetic near the end of the game. I think that with Modern Warfare, at least, Infinity Ward wants to keep it, we know that they want to keep all 3 game modes similar, so that you can jump between the 3 and not feel like you're playing a completely different game. I think that by using the example of Black Ops 4 again, when you jump into a game like Zombies, and then Zombies could be its own game itself because of how complex that game mode has become. Blackout could be its own game because, again, how complex a battle royale is. And then multiplayer could be its own game again. So when you jump between the 3 modes of Black Ops 4, it's kind of like you're jumping in between 3 different games. And with Modern Warfare, Infinity Ward is striving to make it so that when you jump between the 3 modes, you're jumping in between and you're feeling like you're playing the same game. Now, this affects microtransactions, I guess, in a sense, because why in the campaign you have a dark, gritty, realistic campaign that talks about real world issues. In the Spec Ops, you have, again, those same sort of themes, but a bit more arcadic and a bit more fun than a straight up story mode. And then you have multiplayer, and let's say in this hypothetical world, Infinity Ward decides to have rainbow unicorns on the operator skins and a banana skin for one of the weapons in the game. It's going to be a bit jarring going from those 2 game modes, Spec Ops and campaign, and then jumping to a game mode like multiplayer where you have all this ridiculous as cosmetic items. I think that Infinity Ward wants to make it so that the microtransactions in multiplayer and the cosmetic items realistic and feel part of the world and the game that they're creating. It's just about if Activision will let them do that. Infinity Ward can say, and they have said, that they want to keep microtransactions realistic and not have any of this ridiculous stuff in their game. Now, again, as I said, Infinity Ward can say that, but at the end of the day, it's Activision as well that has a say on what they do, because Activision pays to get the game out there. So in that sense, it sucks because we know that Infinity Ward wants to make this game one thing, but Activision wants to make money as well. So it's down to, do you make your consumer base happy, or do you make the person who's paying to push your game out there happy? Because without the publisher, there are no developers, and without the developers, there are no publishers. So you got to kind of make compromises there, which sucks for the consumer, because the consumer has to kind of deal with all the crap that microtransactions bring around with them. As I said earlier in the video, I think that microtransactions this year are going to be the worst they've ever been. I think that the supply drops in this game are going to be so polluted with a bunch of bullcrap, more than we've seen in Black Ops 4, more than we've seen in a game like Black Ops 3 as well. I think that this year's going to be pretty bad, and I think that we're going to have a lot of complaining to do, and a lot of the developers and publishers not listening to us as a fan base, which sucks, because I think that Modern Warfare has the potential to be an amazing game. It's just whether or not the microtransaction system in that game holds up the quality of what Infinity Ward is creating, because I think that they are genuinely creating a quality game. We see with the alpha, we see with the bits and pieces we've seen of the campaign and that sort of stuff, we can see that Infinity Ward is trying to make something great here. And again, it's really down to the microtransaction system, because microtransactions are such a big part of gaming nowadays. Most, if not all I'd say most games have a microtransaction system in the game. That's how the developers, that's how the publishers make their games post-launch, post the initial sales period and stuff like that. That's how they keep the gravy train going. So that is why, and people buy it. That's the main thing. If people didn't buy these microtransactions, they wouldn't be in gaming. But the thing is, people do buy them, and that's not to the fault of them. Like, there are cool microtransactions, and that's not to the fault of the consumer. And that's not, I guess, not a fault to the developer or the publisher as well. It's just a culture that we've created now in gaming, and that the microtransactions have created. They've created a virtual slot machine that is socially acceptable, and in a sense, that is not, I guess, if we look back to, let's say, even 5 years ago, that wasn't really an acceptable practice. But here in 2019, it's kind of well known, acceptable, and people buy into it. So that's why it's still here today. And it sucks because it affects us so much, because we get a game that's not complete that is going to be re-released to us through microtransactions. Can you imagine if in Black Ops 4 all the microtransactions that they have in that game was a part of the actual game initially from launch? How much of that content do you think was stripped from the game to be re-released as microtransactions in supply drops? How do you, like, we don't know. Was the Peacekeeper meant to be in the game? Were any of the DLC weapons meant to be in the game? And then Activision or even Treyarch themselves went along and said, hang on, let's take that out and re-release it as microtransactions. That's the fear that I have going into Modern Warfare, is that the Modern Warfare microtransaction system is going to be the worst we've ever seen. Even though that Infinity Ward says one thing, that could all change as soon as the initial sales come out. And we get a system this year that is absolutely garbage and super like not pro-consumer at all. And I guess we just deal with it for another year until next year, where we could see an even worse system. But that's all for me today. That's my little ramble, I guess, about microtransactions and the future of microtransactions in Modern Warfare. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. As I said at the start of the video, if you did go on to enjoy this little discussion we had, click that like button. And again, if you're new here, click that subscribe button and click that bell for notifications whenever I post my next video. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Pull up in the gold, I'm bleeding. But them other man need feeding. I don't wanna go Bombay. Them I don't know what I do when I go from Beeling. Leading the pack in black and I'm on with the bag. Snapping with a phone and die. Boss up a man with a duster. Put him in the drip and sit blockbuster. Win, 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 that's the only MO. Ring, 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 I reply with NO. Call me Leno, had it hot. Switch up the ting as I hit bellow. Switch up the ting as I drink mellow. Switch up the ting in my black and yellow. So fresh, clean, saw the ting and she popped like hello.